35 years ago, some people got together, a collection of individuals from two different churches. God had put it in their heart to start a church up here in the Markham area. When they got here, it was all cornfields, soybean fields. There was nothing. But they had a vision, they had a dream. They wanted to represent Christ in this part of North Toronto. So those few people became a few more people. And what ended up happening was they had another vision, and that was to actually create a physical presence in the community. So they bought a piece of property, and then they collected some money amongst themselves, got a little help from our district office, and lo and behold, they built a building. In 1978, they dedicated this building to God and to His glory. Wow, I mean, what an exciting time for them. But from 1978 to 1998, it didn't go as well as they had anticipated. Oh, there were some good moments for sure, and there was even some good leadership. But circumstances were such that they didn't have the impact that they thought that they would have. In fact, when I got here in 1998, I went around this neighborhood and I started asking questions for a solid week, even before I met with the board to talk about this church. I just asked them people questions. I said, what do you know about Markham Pentecostal Church? Well, people didn't know anything about Markham Pentecostal Church. In fact, not one single person even knew that the church existed. I think one of the things that the leadership learned back in those days, that it takes more than a building to reach a community. And one of the things that they were struggling with is a sense of presence and an image in the community. Markham Pentecostal Church. For many people, the very word Pentecostal was working in their own minds against their even entertaining the idea of coming here. So we did some things to work on that for sure, but it wasn't just, an impact problem or an image problem that we had. There was actually an influence problem in the community. But you know what? What was so cool was that there were about 50 or 60 people. They were here. They were present and accounted for, and they had lived through all of the tough times, and they believed, they still had the seed of belief that God had originally put in their hearts some 20 years before. Wow. I remember meeting those individuals, and they spoke to me about the purpose of the church and the reason for it being here. And so we shared heart. It resonated in my own heart, and I thought, this is the place that I want to come and spend the next 20 years of my life. Those were great days. The remnant of people who were here, they were enlivened as to the purpose of this church. It was great. We just began to take it one step at a time, and great things began to happen. So it was in this room where really the culture of the church began to change. More and more we became less concerned about ourselves, and we actually became concerned about our neighborhood. There was probably one sermon series that really catapulted us into a sense of who we were. And that sermon series was called Bridging to the Community. And my goodness, at the end of that, it was like there was this aha moment for us in leadership. And so we began to grow, and we began to fill out this auditorium, not just once, but twice on a Sunday morning. And then we knew that this auditorium, seating a couple of hundred people in one sitting, could not handle the growth that we felt and anticipated we would experience. So 200 people took on a $3 million responsibility. And we built a new auditorium. We built a new foyer and atrium. We built a new office area. And we did it all because we knew that we were going to grow, and we knew that we needed the space. We also knew that it was a better representation of who we are, this new building, that it reflected the idea of our being a bridge. And so 200 people put it all together, and we built a new building. So here we are. This is the new building. It's actually about 5 years old now already. I can remember when we moved in March, about 5 years ago. We were so excited. Here we were able to all move back into the same service. But here we were all together in the new building. Isn't this great? It didn't last very long. In fact, the community responded And we were being all that God wants us to be by way of influencing our community. And the church filled up. Within a month, the church filled up. It kind of freaked us out because we thought, uh-oh, we're going to have to do this again. So for 5 years, we've known that we're going to have to do this again. I think when you implement the principles of inclusivity and intelligibility, and you integrate all the cultures and ethnicities that are actually here from the community, you can't help but grow. And that's exactly what has happened. So we're back to 2 services again. We're filled out, and here we go. We're going into another building project. We're preparing the way for those who aren't yet here. So it's not just the adults in this particular room that are experiencing the squeeze right now. It's the kids. That room that we left 5 years ago, what used to be our sanctuary, now called the chapel, there's more kids over there than there were adults. And they're full. They need room. They're packed in there on every level over there in the old building. The youth are actually sitting on the countertop in our boardroom. It's a boardroom work area, but every square inch of that place is filled. But I'm telling you, it's too small. We need more space. Now, it's not just that. Our standabout area, our foyer, our atrium, which we thought was large, is actually very small for the growth that we are experiencing. And we're the kind of church, we like to hang around after church. We like to come early. So we need space. And so we're looking to build an atrium that can accommodate some 400 people. So you know what? We've been growing. And one of the things that we know is that God has called us to grow larger in terms of our influence, in terms of being inclusive. We're going to grow larger. But He's also called us to grow smaller. And the reason we're to grow smaller is because He wants us to love one another. He wants us to care for one another. He wants us to pray with one another. He wants us to grow with one another. And so we have our life groups that support the discipleship agenda of this church. We have our life groups that help us with our fellowship. We have our life groups that really help us be the family that God's called us to be. So as family, we just all accept the responsibility that there's a lot of people that should be here that aren't here yet. And so we're just doing whatever we can to make room. Whatever this room is today, it won't be like this a year from now. We're expanding. And the way it is a year from now, I'm just wondering, is it going to be big enough? Because the mandate is forever before us. And I find that very exciting. We have this saying here at the bridge. People laugh at me because I say it all the time, but the shoe does not tell the foot how it's going to grow. And that's a truism, I think, that has guided us along as it relates to the whole issue of building. The property serves the program of God. The program serves the people of God. And the people of God serve the purposes of God in a principled way. That's what we are about as a church.